Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker, and in today's episode, we're going to be factoring quadratic trinomials. Now, notice what I just said, factoring quadratic trinomials. Before I get started, I want to make sure that we all are on the same page and we all know what factoring is, we know what a quadratic is, and we know what a trinomial is. Let me work backwards. First off, what is a trinomial? A trinomial is an expression that has three terms. Just as a tricycle has three wheels, a trinomial has three terms. In both of these examples, we have trinomials. This is one term, this is a second term, this is a third term. Now somebody might be saying, well, I see a 4 and an x. So why is that one term? Because the 4 and the x are together, connected as a union, right? Like in a marriage between a man and a woman, right? Two people are married, right? You got a 4 and you got an x, all right? They're together, right? That's a union. So that's one term, right? 1, 2, 3. Three terms. Look at example 2. 1, 2, 3. Three terms. So we got trinomials. Now, what makes them quadratic? Quadratic means that when you look at the expression, the biggest exponent you see is a 2. The biggest exponent you see is a 2. And number one, biggest exponent I see is a 2. This x has an exponent of 1, which is invisible. Same thing with the 4 and the negative 12. The biggest exponent I see is a 2. Same thing with expression number 2. Right? Y squared. All right? Quadratics. Now, factoring. What is factoring? Factoring is when you take an expression and you essentially break it down into its composite parts. Right? What we're going to do is we're going to take this trinomial and break it down into two binomials. A binomial has two terms in it. Right? That's what we're going to do. So that's what factoring is. Factoring is when we break it down. That is, there are specific methods in terms of how we do that, which, and the question also is like, well, how do I know what method to use? Because there's a bunch of methods. That's why it's important to identify what the expression is first. Because if you're dealing with a quadratic trinomial, you factor it a certain way. If you were dealing with a sum of two cubes, you would factor it a different way. If you were dealing with a difference between two perfect squares, you would factor it a different way. And through practice, you learn when to use which method and at what time. Okay? So, another thing to keep in mind when we're dealing with quadratic trinomials, right? Specifically when we're dealing with quadratic trinomials, is your lead coefficient, right? Because if your lead coefficient is a 1, and I want you to make sure you put this into your notes. If your lead coefficient is a 1, which means there's an invisible 1 right here, because you don't have to write the coefficient 1. You don't have to write it. If it was a 4, you have to write it, okay? But like right here in number 2, there's no number written in front of y squared, right? There's no number written in front of the x squared. And that's called the lead coefficient because it's part of the lead term. This term is the first term in the expression. The first term is your lead term, and the lead term has a lead coefficient, right? So if your lead coefficient is a 1, you factor it a certain kind of way. If your lead coefficient was not a 1, we would factor it in a different kind of way. That involves more steps and a little bit more work. Nothing difficult, but just a more lengthy process. All right. And we have some other videos on the All This Math channel that show that more lengthy process as well. Okay. So when we have a quadratic trinomial and our lead coefficient is 1, all you need to do is this. You need to think of and figure out what two factors of the last number add up to the middle coefficient. So what factors of negative 12 add up to positive 4? What factors of negative 12 add up to positive 4? Now, if you're real good with the numbers, you could just automatically in your head just know what the answer is, know what those two factors are, then fine. But if you're not, don't be ashamed. Just write down the pairs of factors of the last number. So I know the pairs of factors of negative 12. I'm going to say, okay, negative 12 times 1 will give me negative 12. And then I ask myself, what's negative 12 plus 1? Does that add up to 4? No, it does not. So I know that these two won't work. And then I think, okay, what are two other factors of negative 12? I could say negative 6 and 2. Negative 6 times 2 equals negative 12. But does negative 6 plus 2 add up to positive 4? No, it doesn't. It adds up to negative 4. But stop right there. Whenever that happens, because you see what just happened was something special. We got the correct number with the wrong sign. we got the correct number with the wrong sign because negative 6 plus 2 adds up to negative 4. But we need to add up to a positive 4. Whenever that happens, that means you have the right numbers, basically, but you have the signs in the wrong places. So all you got to do is this. Switch the signs. Make the 6 positive and make the 2 negative. What I just gave you right there is called a cheat code. And mathematics has a lot of cheat codes. Once you learn the cheat codes, the math is going to become easy. But the thing is, a lot of people never learn the cheat codes because they get frustrated and give up too soon, right? And it is a whole lot of them. But if you stay dedicated and stay focused, you'll learn the cheat codes and then the math will become easy. Trust me, right? I'm living proof to that. So we got positive 6 and negative 2. Positive 6 times negative 2 is still negative 12. And positive 6 plus negative 2, or think of it as 6 minus 2, is equal to positive 4. Now, I don't need to worry about no other factors than negative 12. I don't need to worry about negative 4 and 3. I don't care about that. I already found my 2 factors that I need. I need 2 factors of the last number that add up to the middle. Factors of the last that add up to the middle. I need to multiply to get the last number, and those same 2 numbers should add up to the middle number. Now, how do I write my answer? This is how you write your answer, like this. You're going to set up 2 sets of parentheses, because remember, when we factor this trinomial, it's going to become 2 binomials. So it's going to look like this. You do 1, boom. That's 1 set of parentheses. Right next to it, boom. No plus sign in between, no minus sign in between, none of that. Right? Just 1 binomial times another binomial. Now, we got 4 spaces. Right? In the first spaces, we're going to put the factors of x squared, which are just x and x. X times x equals x squared. So you put an x right here and an x right here. Now in these other 2 spaces, yeah, you guessed it. That's where you're going to put these 2 numbers, this positive 6 and this negative 2. So I'm going to just put plus 6 right here and minus 2 right here. Now, does it matter do I have to put the 6 in the first binomial and the negative 2 in the second one? No, I don't. If you wanted to, you could have wrote x minus 2 first and x plus 6 second. Either way, that's the answer. But what if you want to prove that if that's the answer or not? Use something called the FOIL method. The FOIL method. The FOIL method of multiplying expressions or multiplying binomials. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. 6 times x is 6x. Combine like terms. Negative 2x plus 6x, it gives me 4x. That's right there. And then 6 times negative 2, which is negative 12. All right. So this is proof that this is the right answer. So this is the factored form of this. All right. Now, in order to memorize this process, you got to do a whole bunch of examples. A whole bunch of examples. Right? You just got to do a whole bunch of examples. There's no way around it. Now, look at number 2. Quadratic, biggest exponent is a 2. Trinomial, 1, 2, 3. Lead coefficient is a 1. So we're doing this the easy way. Like I said, remember, and you'll be introduced to this as well. If your lead coefficient was not a 1, if it was any other number besides 1, it's a more lengthy process that we're not going to do today in this video right now, but it's a more lengthy process that you should also learn. All right? That's based on this. It's built on top of this. All right? It's not as simple as this, but it's built on top of this. But you can do it. You can do that too. But for now, our lead coefficient is a 1, so we're going to do it the same way we did this one. We look to our last number, which is negative 56. All right? Now, we're going to list out factors of negative 56 that add up to, and I know somebody's going to look at this and say, wait, but there ain't no number in the middle. It is a number. What's the coefficient of this y? This negative sign represents a negative 1. Put that in your notes and memorize that. This negative sign represents a negative 1. Just like this 4 represents a positive 4. There was no number in front of x squared, so that represents a positive 1. There's no number in front of y squared. That represents a positive 1. When there's a negative sign and no number, that represents a negative 1. So we are looking for 2 factors of negative 56 that add up to negative 1. Now, let's just start listing factors. So I'm going to start with negative 56 and 1. I mean, I know that's not going to work, but I'm going to still write it down just for the sake of being complete with my work. Negative 56 plus 1 does not equal negative 1. And then, let me see. What about negative 28 and 2? That does not add up to negative 1. What about, let me see, negative 14 times 4? That don't add up to negative 1. Let me see, this one is wrong. This one is no good. What about negative 7, and 8. Negative 7 times 8 equals negative 56. Negative 7 plus 8 equals positive 1. Whoa, but I need a negative 1. I just did the same thing I did in the first example. I got the right numbers with the wrong sign. So I told you the cheat code. We got to apply the cheat code to this one too. When you get the correct numbers with the wrong sign, you just switch the signs. Make this 7 into a positive, make the 8 negative. Because positive 7 minus 8 is negative 1. The coefficient of y, not y. We don't know what y is, but we know the coefficient of y, which tells us how many y's we have. We have negative 1 y's. That's how many we got. So now I'm ready to write my answer. I write my two binomials. Some people call this the reverse FOIL method because it's basically what it is. If I gave you the two binomials and asked you to multiply them out, your result would be this trinomial right here. But except here, we're going in the opposite direction. So now we do equal sign. We got 4 terms inside all together. The factors of y squared are just y and y. So we put the y right there, we put the other y right there. And these are our two numbers, our magic numbers. Plus 7 minus 8. I just figured I'd be different and put the 7 over here and put the negative 8 right there. That's the final answer. Y times y is y squared. Y times 7 is 7y. Negative 8 times y is negative 8y. 7 minus 8 is negative 1y. Negative 8 times 7 is negative 56. And it's a wrap. That's the final answer. So this is just a little bit about how to factor quadratic trinomials when your lead coefficient is a 1. How to factor quadratic trinomials when your lead coefficient is a 1. And I also hope that you have subscribed to this channel because we got a lot of content just like this that can help to support you. And it's self-paced because you can always hit pause. You can hit pause. You can hit rewind. You can go back, right? Go back and go forward, right? This is here to help you with your homework, with your classwork, whatever. Anytime, anything you encounter in a class that you don't understand, that's what all this math is here for, to provide you with that assistance. Okay? Hope you learned something today. Hope you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe right now. All right? Also hit the notification button so when I drop new content, you'll be the first to know about it. All right? And as always, do remember, there's all this math all around you. Peace out.